pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
It's a Wednesday night in February, and 22 men and 1 woman are gathered at Mayberry's restaurant in Farmington Hills. They're all Caucasian, some are middle-aged and out of shape, and others are in their 20s and fit. This is the militia's monthly business meeting. It's also recruitment night. Postal worker Lee Miracle leads the meeting. He has a full beard, a long ponytail, and he's wearing a Jesus Patrol t-shirt and shorts. Miracle is the father of 8 children, and he's been involved with the militia since the mid-1990s. Tonight's topic is the Winter Survival Training Camp.
It's going to be cold, and it is a survival weekend. If you do not survive, you will fail the exercise, and we will have far too much paperwork to fill out. Let that add to your fears. You will become more meat for the stew. We've never had anyone die at a snow dog training. We've had people who wanted to.
Only one potential new member shows up for the meeting. Jeff is in his early 30s. He has a wife and a new baby. He's deeply distrustful of the government, and he believes something is about to happen. Probably the collapse of the American economy, he says.
Well, I feel like I can't rely on our elected officials. I can't rely on our military who works for our government. So bottom line is we have to have somebody to rely on.
The survival camp takes place over the weekend on private wooded property about 3 hours north of Detroit. It's 20 degrees, but the sun takes the edge off the cold. Some participants don't want to be identified, interviewed, or photographed, and the militia makes it clear no pictures are to be taken of any license plates. Amy Cooter is the only woman here, but she is not a member. She's getting her Ph.D. in sociology from the University of Michigan, and she's been studying the group for 2 years.
I think that they're more often seen publicly as a group, paranoids out in the woods with tinfoil hats or whatever, but these are men who vote on a regular basis, who talk about political issues in their meetings, and who encourage people to write their congressmen, and I think that's not what people expect.
A 20-year-old mechanical engineering student who calls himself Mr. Mosen is in full winter camouflage. He says he's a conservative libertarian and believes the function of the militia is to keep civilization intact during a natural disaster or civil unrest.
You can either be a couch potato or you can go out and say, I'm doing something productive. I'm going out, I'm learning skillet arms, first aid, something that might be beneficial at some time in the future.
Protecting the Second Amendment is the primary reason for the militia's existence. Jeff is 42. He is a rifle team leader. He believes the current administration is sneaking around the back door to take his guns away. He wants the right to protect his family during an emergency.
Okay, I've got this food and I've got this water. I need to be able to defend that from people that don't. In a time of need, a couple of weeks without food and water and gasoline, people are going to be hungry, and they're going to do just about desperate things to do whatever they can to feed their families.
It's late afternoon and time for target practice. They're using long guns and handguns. Lee Miracle says this militia is not subversive, it's patriotic, and embraces the Constitution. Miracle also says this is not the militia people associate with Timothy McVeigh, the Michigan man convicted and executed for blowing up the federal building in Oklahoma City in 1995. 168 people died in that attack.
I don't think there's a hateful bone out here on this range today. These are just upbeat, happy people. Except when I get them out for guard duty, then they're a little sour.
Reporting from Camp Snow Dog in Rose City, I'm Rena Miller, Michigan Radio News.
Range is hot. Range is hot. Going hot.
Snowstorms, Katrina, any natural disaster like that might break down civilization. Everyone's got a cell phone, but next thing you know, the power goes out and batteries are dead.
I've been caught off guard. When we had the big blackout, we were caught without water, we were caught without food, we were caught without gas. And then on top of that, now, okay, I've got this food. I need to be able to defend that from people that don't.
This is typical, it's an older Glock 17 9mm.
Gun rights are almost a necessary part of being in the militia. Militia and the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms stacked right up next to one another as a pretty important.
This is a CEPME, CEPME, Spanish National Arms Manufacturer.
I'm worried about the damage that government interference has done to the economy. How much of your tax dollars are sent to other countries that people can't even pronounce? So I think you need to narrow taxation down to exactly what's spelled out in the Constitution.
I think you see a lot of people that definitely follow the Constitution that are involved with these militia activities.
Most people, there is a range, but most people are libertarian or constitutionalists, as they self-describe themselves.
Kind of don't fit in with the right side or the left side, Republic or Democrat. I think both sides are corrupt, and I think there's a different agenda other than just following the Constitution and running the country the way that the original founders thought that it should be run.
Ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. March and clear all weapons. The range is cold. The range is cold.
We've heard the name before, Michigan Militia. It's a group of well-armed activists in and out of the news for more than a decade now. Often they say all for the wrong reasons. The militia has been controversial because of its axe to grind with the U.S. government and its link to Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh. But are they really training to be homegrown terrorists, as some suggest? In our special report, Militia Movement, David Bailey lifts the veil with a first-hand account of the militia's marching orders.
My name Bubba.
They do their training. Is anyone front security?
I will be front security. Mike will be back security.
Firearms and first aid, as News Channel 3 watched. But ultimately, few really know what this volunteer militia is getting ready for, other than to arm themselves against the government if needed. That's what scares people who think these men and women are actually training right now to kill.
We're not trained to kill Muslims. We would gladly kill terrorists, but not all Muslims are terrorists. Not all terrorists are Muslims. So
they say they're not that scary.
People probably think that we sit at home in our basement and sharpen our knives all day, and that we pray for some kind of apocalyptic turmoil, and we're really that nothing can be further from the truth.
Lee Miracle's been with the militia since it began in the early 1990s, and has now taken a leadership role in the group. The militia's original founder was kicked out for being too radical. Now they say a kinder, gentler militia.
We don't want people who are going to hurt Americans. We don't want people who are going to hurt babies. We don't want people who are going to blow things up because they're mad.
He's referring to Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber, who at first was believed to have ties to the Michigan militia. Current members still get fired up about what was at best a very distant connection there.
Let's say after the Oklahoma City bombing, they said Timothy McVeigh, a known bread eater, blew up a building. Now, when you go to the store and buy some bread, they're going to say, oh, he's eating bread, just like Timothy McVeigh.
But Miracle and others acknowledge there have been numerous people joining and then leaving the militia who have committed horrible crimes, including a man most in West Michigan remember, Scott Woodring. He shot and killed a state trooper in 2003.
We really don't want angry people to come out here.
But if you check out YouTube, some might see a different picture. Are often racist and have the potential to resort to domestic terrorism. So we asked Miracle whether that could happen or whether he could be considered a terrorist.
No, I'm a postal worker. This probably is equally frightening to some people, but no, I work at the post office and not a terrorist.
And members will admit the organization's actually disorganized and isn't growing. At max, it has about a couple of hundred members, and it turned out the weekend we were there, West Michigan members of the Michigan militia chose not to participate in the training and protest. Clearly some friction and lack of cohesion.
We're not the catch-all anymore, and people can find groups that fit better with their idea of what needs to be done.
But they say they're here for a reason, a constitutional right. And they don't want anybody to stop them.
We just basically want to be able to do what we do and be left alone to do it.
That was David Bailey reporting. After being kicked out of Michigan, the militia's founder moved to Alaska, where he runs a similar group. At its peak, the Michigan militia, it had 10,000 members.